Hey guys, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here. Hello.
That was brutal.
There you go.
Ah.
Can you guess what this week's video is about? It says it all in the title, but Dan ably demonstrating there the importance of tuning your guitar.
Yes.
To be fair, I have watched guitar players finish songs where it's all sounded fine, and then they've given me an E chord.
That's awesome.
Their guitars are basically that out of tune by the time they finish the song. Guthrie Govan is one, actually. And but he, to be fair, he wasn't playing chords. He's just playing single notes and getting it there or thereabouts.
Yeah. Speaking of Guthrie, did you see that thing that happened when he was on stage with Hans Zimmer?
Right.
And he's playing this solo and a string breaks on his whammy.
Yeah.
Pulls everything sharp. So he grabs the slide, finishes the solo with the slide to bring everything back in tune. It's pretty impressive stuff. Yeah, so tuning, ears, all that stuff.
All right, this isn't going to be like we always say this for regular viewers of That Pedal Show. You know that our videos tend to run long. We're going to try and not make this one too long because although bizarrely there is a lot to discuss. Let's do that a second, Daniel.
Nice. I wanted to let you do that.
Oh, thanks.
I know you like that.
Thanks. You would think that buying a guitar tuner is easy, right? Because you just need one that works.
Yep.
Kind of. Surely you can't do a whole video on guitar tuners. Yes, we can. We think there are 4 things that a guitar tuner has to do. So we're going to tell you what those 4 things are. And then we're going to revisit some of the ones that require a bit more explanation. So if you only want to watch the first 3 minutes of this video, you will already have turned off. But the relevant bit is now. Okay? 4 things that a guitar tuner needs to do. Number 1, most important of all, it needs to fit wherever you want to put it.
Yes.
So that is either on your pedal board.
Yes.
Somewhere in that mess of rubbish you have on the floor because you don't have a pedal board. It might want to sit on a bench in your studio. It might want to clip to the end of your instrument, such as this.
How does that work?
Preferably facing you.
Oh, okay. So like that would be me.
This is a headstock that I'm not accustomed to.
Right. Okay. Yep. Cool.
Yeah. And lots of people use headstock tuners, or obviously on your pedal board, and you can get larger ones, smaller ones. Number 1, it has to fit wherever you're going to put it.
Yep.
Number 2, this starts to get really important now. It needs to enable you to tune your guitar.
I like that.
It sounds obvious.
We need to be thorough.
But there are 3 further things that I think are important about tuning your guitar. 1, you need to be able to see it clearly.
Yes.
So display sizes and types, we'll talk about that in a bit. It needs to work quickly. And there are some issues about that. So you need to be able to see it. It needs to work quickly. And finally, it needs to be accurate. That's what we're going to spend most of the time talking about today, I think. Because
that's a whole kettle of chalk.
Yes. A kettle of fishy cheese. Day and chalk. Yep, these are all That Pedal Show in-jokes. If you're new, we apologise. Welcome. Thirdly is another practicality thing. It either needs to cut the signal to your amplifier to enable you to tune silently, or it needs to be on all the time and allow signal to pass through. So you can see it all the time. We'll talk about that. And finally, this is the contentious one. It needs to sound good.
Yeah.
How bonkers does that sound?
You'd think it's a tuner. It's going to sound good.
Yeah. One of the reasons we're doing this video today is because this is new, the Strobostomp HD from Peterson, and it's quite exciting. Because it's quite boring, isn't it? It's going to get less boring.
Okay.
Now. Let's have a look at some of these then, Dan. Could you fire up the Strobostomp? I think your guitar probably needs tuning.
Okay. So
tune a string on each tuner.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Back to the strobe continuity. All right.
We in tune?
Let's see. Sort of.
Near enough. Okay, so what you will have seen because of pedal cam there, I think that's a pretty good vantage point actually to just say what we don't need to say about the size and legibility of some of those displays. If you're going to play outside, it needs to be really bright. How much information do you want to see on there? For example, do you want to see some of the things that we're going to talk about in a moment, such as the relative pitch, the note name, the string name, and that's probably where we should pick it up, because what we've got on this board are examples of tuners that use a strobe.
Yes.
Well, actually, pretty much all of them can, not all of them, most tuners can at least do what we might call a guided tuning. So instead of E, A, D, G, B, E, it will say 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But let's talk about the strobe.
Okay.
What do you know about strobes?
So strobe, it's a very early sort of tuning and very, very accurate. So you would have a disc that spins, and there are intervals on the disc and a light that shines on the side, and the speed that the disc spins. It's like, do you remember the record players, right? And on the side, you'd see that have little blocks on them. At 75 RPM, one block would be straight and everything else would be spinning. 45 RPM, the other side. So exactly the same thing with the strobe tuner. And when you play a note, you can see whether or not that note's in tune with the pitch of the strobe tuner.
I never knew that.
Right.
I genuinely never knew that, which is why I asked you.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's but they've been, so Peterson, who make the Strobostomp, and some really early pictures of the Pink Floyd rig, they've got these really old Peterson strobe tuners.
Yeah, usually a big thing that sits on a desk with a display on the front.
Yeah.
And yeah, the studios, most studios, decent studios, would have a Peterson strobe tuner because it was the most accurate thing you could get. And it's called strobe because, as you can see, Dan, if you wouldn't mind. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a sec in terms of how you might approach actually physically tuning the guitar. But that's a strobe. How have we got the TU-3? How have I got the TU-3 set up? I think I've got it just set up as a straightforward. So no strobe there. This is just a chromatic tuner. Left for flat, right for sharp. Now, clearly, what you've got there is one series of LEDs going left and right. So what you don't have is the multi-set like you have in the strobe.
Sure.
So visually, at least, it's not as accurate because that middle green light, when it comes on, won't be as accurate as having all your strobes.
Yeah, well, you can see, I can have the Strobostomp and the TU-3S on the same time.
Oh, this will be interesting.
And you can see with the strobe, it even, as I move the guitar, it moves.
Yeah.
You know, it just a slightest change in pressure and the strobe will move. Whereas you've got a certain bandwidth.
The margin.
You've got a margin on the other one.
Yeah. We'll talk a bit more about accuracy in a second. And then this was your favourite tuner, isn't it?
Yep.
A small strobe.
Yeah. But a genuine, again, much the same mode as the Peterson, it is a genuine strobe tuner.
I've always struggled with your strobe tuner because my brain has the left-right thing. I can't tell instantly whether it's sharp or flat.
So you'll see with the turbo tuner, if it goes to the left, it's flat.
Yeah.
If it goes to the right, it's sharp. So you've got to get used to.
Yeah, and I'm sure it would take you about 20 minutes of using it to get absolutely used to that. I've always liked just the left and right. I think probably because the first tuner I ever had was an Arion stage tuner,
right?
Which just was essentially in fact, I think all that had was a green one in the middle and two.
Yeah. Did you not
one
have
red either side?
Did you not have one of those long boss tuners that had the analog?
No, first tuner I ever had was a stage tuner. So
yeah, so the original long boss tuner.
Yeah.
That had looked like a VU meter.
The needle, yeah.
Yeah.
And Seco, God, they must have sold millions of those old tuners. Okay, all right. Still with us? Try not to fall asleep. It does get more interesting, I promise. And then one final thing to about the display is TC Electronic, probably 10 years ago or thereabouts. And I think they did it first, and apologies if it wasn't them, Wikipedia will tell you the answer, did polyphonic tuning. So instead of doing one string at a time,
you can go. That is very, very clever.
And in case it wasn't absolutely obvious, for whatever reason, you get 6 sets of LEDs and they show the strings, the bottom string on the left, by the bottom string I mean the fat E string, and the top string on the right, and they show you whether it's sharp or flat. So I don't know if when would that be useful? If you've got a few seconds to tune and you're not quite sure which of your strings is out of tune, bang the tuner on, hit all the strings so it's silent, and it's like, it's the B string,
right? And
then you can just hone in on the B string and make it accurate.
What happens if you play a chord on that?
It's getting the chords right.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it doesn't see, I guess there's obviously some tech in there that requires it to be, it's looking for the intervals. Maybe.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, however it works, it's about 10 years old, and it's, I don't think the polytune mode itself, I suspect, isn't as accurate as the
individual notes.
But it's a quick reference. So there you go. What do you want to see when you look down at your tuner? Those are, I'm trying to think if there are any other. Maybe if you've got a rack tuner and it's got a great big thing that goes left to right.
And they're really popular when those,
Yeah.
What I have never understood with those is you've got to turn around and face.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess a quick glance around. Maybe when you're running across the stage to do your Eddie Van Halen jump.
And just quick check on the tuning before you do
glance.
that.
You do it mid-air,
good to go.
couldn't you? Land. That would work. All right.
Just give us a quick slap, would you?
Just to make sure you're awake. I can't actually hit you on camera. So the next thing that seems absolutely obvious by today's standards, but wasn't so obvious 25 years ago, silent tuning.
Yeah.
So when pedal tuners came along, they offered anybody the option to just step on it and turn the signal off to your amp so you can tune silently. As you can see, 4 of our 5 tuners have the ability to be turned on and off to do silent tuning. One of them doesn't. This one. This is the tuner that I use on my board, and it doesn't need to have a switch on it, because when I engage this switch on my pedal board switcher, my G2, it mutes the signal automatically, so it doesn't require a switch. And the main benefit of that is it's smaller.
Yeah, just cuts rid of the foot switch part of the.
And I'm amazed how many people don't know that exists.
Yeah,
they think it's a mod. So yes, can you switch it on and off? Seems bleeding obvious, doesn't it?
But the other side of that coin is
right.
that you can have them on all the time. So, for example, let's go back to the Strobostomp. Now, so I'm still getting signal through, but you can still glance down and see if I'm in tune. And then I can mute it if I need to silently tune, but then go back to it being on all the time. Now, the only thing to be aware with that is it requires a buffer. If we didn't have a buffer in there, your signal would be split passively and the input would be going to the tuner and then also off to the pedals or, further on down the chain. So the signal's loading, hitting two inputs at the same time. So the buffer in that basically enables the signal, it hits the buffer, and then you can split it into as many things as you like without it being loaded.
Yes. That comes into what we'll talk about at the end, which is does it sound good?
Right.
Has a knock-on, whether there's a buffer in your tuner or not, has a knock-on. So yeah, not all tuners can do that, it's worth saying. Not all tuners have got the monitor mode where it's on constantly. And those that do, for example, the Strobostomp HD and the Polytune Mini 3 have dip switches which enable you to set it to either on-off, silent mode, or monitor mode, or buffer.
But the other thing you need for that is a fast tuner.
Well, I'm pleased you mentioned that. Did you notice that seamless cut that was there?
Awesome.
So this is the really thorny issue, and I guess this is the main, aside from the basic practicality stuff, which is obviously important. This is the main stuff to be aware of with tuners and where it starts to get really thorny. So Dan mentioned the speed of the tuning. To me, that goes hand in hand with accuracy. So how do you tune your guitar?
Okay, so I use harmonics.
12th fret harmonic.
12th fret harmonics. And I always go below the note and then tune up.
Yeah.
Till that stops.
I think that is a fantastic tip. Pretty much all machine heads, tuners, whatever you want to call them, that I've ever used always seem to be more reliable when you go up to the note rather than down to it. And I don't know whether that's because it's loaded.
Yeah. So if I am going below the note and I'm then tuning back up here, I'm pulling the string past the nut, right? But the majority of the tension is still on this side of the string. So if I bend here, I've still got the majority of the tension here. But if I go past the note and tune down, I'm holding the tension here.
Yeah.
So as soon as I pull on the string, it pulls it back across the nut.
Yeah.
And then you're out of tune.
Yeah. So it may not release through the nut as efficiently as it should.
Exactly.
Given that all tuning problems are created by friction somewhere on the guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 12th fret harmonic, let it sustain up to the note. If you go past, down, and then back up again. So the reason I mention that is because when you talk about speed, I've seen loads of people go... I just can't, it just won't lock on. I just can't get it to lock on. I've actually watched people do that because you're just constantly hitting an open string which is full of extra harmonics and everything else, not giving the tuner time. Just a simple 12th fret harmonic. That's the quickest.
Yeah.
That is accurate, actually. Did you notice how even my...
Oh yeah, proper. That's what strobes give you.
Yeah.
You see, we actually have both of these on at the same time, and
tuned by neck. pulling.
But the interesting thing about that method of tuning, if I'm going, that part of the note
is out of tune.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So if I am going, maybe the idea then would for me to actually, right, that's really sharp. You know, and I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do this at a gig necessarily, but if I'm in the studio,
yeah.
Okay, well now. So it all depends on the way you play. For example, I was in the studio with Biffy Clyro, and I was looking after Simon's guitars, and depending on, to be part of the song will come up, and he'd show me the chord he'd play, and then I'd take it and I'd play the chord and I'd tune for that chord. But sometimes, because he picks differently to how I pick, so he was using really soft picks and I had my ridiculous things. So I had to grab his pick and try and pick the way he picked to get it perfectly in tune. And all that stuff makes a massive difference.
Yeah. So maybe the question you have about buying a tuner is, how accurate is it?
Yeah.
And the answer is it's as accurate as your method of tuning.
There you go.
Now,
I like that.
For sure, if you play a perfect 12th fret harmonic and the guitar is unimpeded, then you can start talking about accuracy. And personally, that's the way I tune. But you're absolutely right. The minute you play anything, I mean, how many times have we done this? So now we're talking about intonation, right? And we're going to get onto stuff like sweetened tunings and why that's important and all the rest of it. So the reason that guitar tuners aren't the same and they don't work the same for everybody is because everyone isn't the same. So the biggest intonation problem on a guitar, the biggest reason a guitar won't play in tune usually is something to do with the B and the G strings.
Right.
And usually the G string, right, where it goes from, that sounds meaty.
That's my nan.
On a quad bike.
She's come to get a fresh ice cream.
Where it goes from, in fact, I've got a guitar that would demonstrate this, or you have a guitar that will demonstrate this perfectly.
Which is?
The SG.
Aha!
Sorry, the Les Paul, should I say.
Thank you.
So, used to be in the olden days that electric guitars had wound third strings, and some still do. So if you've got a bridge like this, we come down the intonation, it gets shorter for the thinner strings because of the diameter of the string. Now, where you go from the wound string to the plain string, you get the biggest jump. And on a guitar with a compensated intonation, you then step back a bit there to get it to play in tune down here, because there's probably a tuner on somewhere, isn't there? Because, right? Apologies for that painful. What I was trying to do is get the biggest variation I could in the polytune on green.
Right. Just staying in the same fret.
Staying in the same fret and the same note. And hopefully, if you want to rewind that bit, what you'll notice is I pretty much managed to get the polytune to stay on the green while the Strobostomp was showing quite a considerable variance.
Yeah.
There's your accuracy. They say this is accurate to 0.1 cent. Well, they say a tenth of a cent, whatever
Right.
that means.
Right.
A tenth of a cent.
Okay.
And I can remember, I think my Arion tuner was accurate to plus or minus 3
Right.
or 2, which is 20 or 30 times that.
Right.
I mean, it's massive.
That's huge.
Yeah. The Polytune, they quote 0.02 cents.
Right.
Which...
the Polytune is like surprisingly accurate, actually, for not being a real strobe tuner. It certainly...
It does have a strobe mode, though, I think.
Yeah, but there's strobe mode isn't a strobe tuner.
Yes.
It's just simply put flashy lights on.
Same as this.
Same as that.
Yeah.
Same as that. Not a real strobe tuner.
Yeah.
The
it's just
Sonic Research and the Strobostomp are genuine strobe tuners.
Yeah. So it's a good time to talk about what we're actually tuning to then.
Yep.
And in modern music, standard concert pitch is A440.
Mm-hmm. Up there. That's 440.
All the way up there.
Mm-hmm.
440 hertz. Peterson also do an app. So could you hold that on there for me, Dan?
I can.
Just so we get, I don't know if it actually is physically transferring, but it will have a better chance of hearing it. And I don't know if Simon can zoom in that far, but I'd say it's about 438. What does it say?
438.
Genuinely couldn't see it. I just knew it was flat, and I guessed. Why is that interesting? That's interesting because
440 is only recent.
1939.
Right.
We had to do some research on Wikipedia before today's show, and apparently that standard was introduced in 1939 because in Bach's time.
Yep. The time of sore throats.
I had to write this down as well. Apparently, bearing in mind we were just talking about 440, could range anything from 374 to 569.
That's amazing.
Which is quite the difference.
So if you go to a church that has a pipe organ older than 1939, it could literally be wildly out. So if you've got an orchestra that goes in to play with that church organ, they have to tune to the pipe organ, and that might be, higher or lower,
depending on where it was.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
Evidently, there was a need to standardise what concert pitch was. Mm-hmm. That's relevant because you may have to explain this,
right?
Because you were doing some work on this earlier. The whole thing is a compromise anyway.
Yes.
So if in times of orchestral music, there is still orchestral music, the piano, for example, would be tuned to the key that the thing was in, because that would be the most harmonious, what's the word I'm looking for? Sympathetic.
Very nice.
So if you play 3 notes in a chord, or probably more than that, but if you play 3 notes in a chord, if you tune the piano one way and you play those 3 notes, they're not going to be as in tune as if it's tuned another way, and certainly in tune with everybody else that you're playing with. So the idea of every note being mathematically correct in terms of the hertz doesn't really work, because once you put them together and play chords, the harmonics that are created after that make them sound more in or out of tune, dependent, of course, on our sort of cultural centre, and it's important to reflect on that because we are talking about Western, what do they call it? The thingy scale.
Harmonic scale.
No, the tempered scale. Do they call it that?
Oh, the even tempered scale.
When we decided to divide it all into semitones.
Yeah. So if you look at the
hear the ice cracking?
So if you look at the harmonic series and the way that works, like everything has a harmonic, right? The table. If you tap that and you manage to get a harmonic the same way you do on the guitar string, and you'd find its octave in exactly half of its mass.
Yeah.
So here, do this. There's our octave, all right? And I take that length of string and I split that in half again, get our fifth, and I split that in half again, we get another octave, split in half again, and it keeps going up. You get, and eventually you'll get every note in the scale through the harmonic series, right? However, so if we just use those notes, right, in E, that would sound amazing. But if we did that, let's say we go up a perfect fourth to A, and we do the same thing, then it would all work the same. However, the minor seventh in that E wouldn't exactly match up with the minor seventh here. It'd be very close,
but not,
it doesn't exactly match up. So what they decided to do is they invented a thing, invented even temperament. So basically, they divided the octave up into 12 portions, exactly even. And if you look at that on a harmonic series, they're pretty close, but they are a compromise.
Yes.
So, I mean, the guitar, tuning wise, is basically a compromise.
Roughing it out, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then of course that's affected by the way you play as well.
Yeah, and so this is the thing. An accurate tuner. I mean, I couldn't gig without my strobe tuner because I need to know that open strings are accurate, and then I can work it out from there. But it's very important to be aware that if I get my A right, that's probably going to be out. That's out. That's out. That's out. That's flat. You know what I mean? It's never exactly in tune.
The minute you start saying that, I quite often just detune depending on what key I'm playing in.
Right.
Because I often play in G.
There you go.
Often
mixed world music album.
Flatten that B string a little bit, which is really nice. Yeah, I was thinking of making a world music album. To round off that concert pitch A440 discussion, a lot of people say that somewhere between E flat and E is a sweeter place for the guitar to exist for all the reasons Dan has just explained. And people talk a lot about A432. And
A432 is very interesting.
So many people say it's complete hogwash. I don't think it is. I think it's... all I'm going to say is a guitar in E flat sounds totally different than a guitar in
Completely.
E. So it stands to reason that it might sound a bit different if it's in 432. Whether it's better or worse is a purely subjective thing, and probably we should leave that there.
But if you're interested in that, go and check it out. There's loads of information on A432. Ed's new album's done on A432.
Is it?
Yeah. And there's a bunch of people who swear by it.
We did talk about it, didn't we? About going to it. But it's the other thing that it is a giant pain in the bottom. Because obviously not everyone else in the band is going to be able to tune to it. The final bit on 432 and different outside of A440 is it's been argued that it's not necessarily the musicians tuning to that. It's actually tape speed.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So whether the tape machine was running slow or fast, or whether it was deliberately slowed or sped up. I think it was fairly common practice to speed up songs, wasn't it?
My whole life is deliberately sped up.
Okay, so if you are playing in anything outside of A440, there's a couple of things you can do on most tuners, and it's worth just checking on the website if you can. We'll use the Strobostomp as an example. So if I want to change, that's a semitone, that's 2 semitones.
Right.
That's 3 semitones.
Yep.
So that's basically a virtual capo, which enables you to tune down, tune the whole guitar, blah, blah, blah. Fairly unexciting. If you want to change the reference, so now we're going to go down to A418. I think it goes from 300 and something to maybe 490 or something like that. So you can change that. You can and by points as well.
Amazing.
So I'm sure Simon told us earlier that something Beethoven or Bach was 425.5 or something. Was it Beethoven's piano?
I think Mozart's piano was 420 something as concert A.
There we go. So we get it back up to 440, so you can change that. Do you know what, Dan?
Yeah, 432.
I'm going to go to 432. Let's tune these guitars to 432 and just see what it sounds like. Right, Dan has tuned the Les Paul Junior to 432. It sounds like this.
Wow.
It's jarring, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really jarring. It's not much of a difference. Certainly not as different as E flat.
No.
E flat's much more obvious, but in fact, so here you go. Just play a 12th fret E, can you, Dan? And now I'll play E flat. And you play E. So E flat's actually quite a lot lower than 432. All right. Some other things to say about so given that we've introduced the concept of tuning being at best a compromise, and the fact that not everything is A440, long before we've even talked about things like dad-gad, alternate tunings, etc., one thing that Peterson are really well known for is sweetened tunings.
Right. Take me through this, because this is all new to me.
Everything you just explained.
Right.
About harmonics not adding up properly, the whole thing being a compromise.
Right.
Etc. So you take, instead of this being, or whatever, instead of that note being this many cents, you decide that in order for this guitar to be perfectly in tune. So if I put more pressure on that major third there.
Yep. Right.
It's ugly, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm going to sweeten this tuning.
By lowering the G string.
Same thing in a tuner.
Okay.
So instead of me doing it, the tuner's doing it, and it's just lowering it by a few cents. And these are things that have been observed over time. You may be familiar with something called the Buzz-Feiten tuning method.
Yeah.
Which monkeys around with the relative position of the bridge and the nut slot to alter the singing length of the string, and therefore the way that the guitar is intonated across the fretboard. Other things such as Matthias Eklund, it's crazy wonky frets.
Yes.
Frank Gambale, I think, has a wonky fret. That's what that is all about changing the intonation relationship on the guitar to make the thing sound more in tune with itself.
Yep.
Important to say that with itself. So loaded into the Strobostomp HD are a ton of sweetened tunings.
Okay.
I'll give you some examples, Daniel.
Please do.
14 pages of them.
You're kidding me.
Guitar and bass. Regular electric guitar.
Yep.
Acoustic guitar.
Right.
So for the James Taylor tuning method.
Okay.
I'll just explain that very quickly. James Taylor, amazing singer-songwriter across the years. Need one of these, actually. Go. Well, what's going to happen when I put this on my guitar, Dan?
Everything's going to go sharp.
It's going to go way out of tune.
a Delamitri. I mean, that good way. I like Delamitri.
I love Delamitri. Predictably, puts the guitar massively out of tune, so I've just retuned it a little bit. James Taylor, he of... him. He did this great video on YouTube.
Right.
I think it was. And I'm sure he's not the first one to do this, but he has a tuning method that involves harmonics and fretted notes.
Okay.
Quite where you get your reference from, I don't know. But let's say that's E. In fact, if only we had a guitar tuner. So James Taylor has this method where, and I think this is right, and if it's not, please watch his video because it's exceptional.
Right.
Instead of doing the standard, which is how most of us learn to tune our guitars first, we use the 5th fret and then the open next string, and then the 4th fret and the open next string for the top one, for the 3rd and for the 5th and 4th strings. Some of us use harmonics, so the 5th fret harmonic here and the 7th fret harmonic. James Taylor does this thing where he plays this. That's the first one.
Right.
Quite where he gets the second string reference from, I'm not sure. Might be worth watching the video, but then... Sounds a little bit off to me. That's his method. That is loaded in here, somewhere on there. It's the second one down. A coup, it should be. Go back to the first page. Designed for use with acoustic guitars tuned to standard EA-D-G-B-E. The strings are adjusted to allow for deflection by varying amounts according to the gauge of the strings used, blah, 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 blah. As if tuned by the ear of an experienced musician, such as James Taylor, who uses these settings.
Wow.
I'm going to see if I can work out how to do that. Keep flicking through and see if you can find out anything interesting.
Okay.
So, I know what it was. It was not any of these. It was this one, and then you go guitar, a coup.
A coup.
So I'm hoping that will just set to that.
Play the James thing again.
Okay, interestingly, so for G, so let's go back to the. I'm kind of interested now. A coup equal guitar. So this is a standard guitar, not an acoustic guitar.
Right.
So on the acoustic guitar setting, the
D's funky.
The G and the B were both flattened.
Oh, okay.
Everything's flattened. And I wonder if that's because most acoustics have quite high action. This is so interesting because they are miles apart.
Yeah.
I don't know what that proved other than well, two things. One, explains why I have trouble with guitar tuners. A live demonstration thereof, because we took 2 settings there. One of them was more in tune than the other.
Yep.
For me personally.
Yep.
So if you've got one tuner and you're tuning 3 different guitars on it,
tricky.
It's either going to work for you or it isn't.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Secondly, the standard acoustic guitar setting in that didn't really work for my guitar. The standard guitar one seemed to work a bit better. Now we can continue going on. So as well as guitar, have you found any interesting ones?
There's loads. There is Sid Hudson's Sweetened tuning for 10-string pedal steel. There's Sneaky Pete Clyro B6 pedal steel tuning. There's lap steel. There's tenor banjo.
If you go onto the last
mandolin.
page, Johnny Marr.
I
think Eddie Van Halen's in there.
No.
Yeah, so there's Sweetened tunings for famous players that you know who don't necessarily...
Albert King.
Yeah, well, that's because he was C sharp, was he? Or C?
C. I
C,
think.
yeah.
Wow.
Not only that, if you then get the app, you can then load in your own Sweetened tunings. So you can design your own.
Wow.
If the 130 odd there don't do it for you.
See, that's all well and good. But I just need to say it all depends on that A, this is in the right place.
Yes.
That this isn't too high.
Yep.
The change the gauge of strings,
yeah,
it's going to be different again. I guess that's why you want to be able to do your own.
Exactly that. So if you pick up it's going to be a faff, isn't it, to have to bend down and change it to tune the junior instead of the Strat, for example. Because
I can't change the intonation on that, right?
No.
That is set. And it's hard enough doing it.
But what you could do is if you always found a sort of tuning tweak that works for you, you can load it into there. So that if you're struggling, because quite often I get this a lot if I'm recording, my ears stop working and I really struggle to tune the guitar.
Yeah.
Live is fine because you don't notice
everyone's
it as
out of
much.
tune, so that's all good.
Brutally, yes. Isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And similarly, I can live, I don't know quite what it is, but I'm in a different frame of mind and I can usually get the guitar in tune really quickly without a tuner.
Yeah.
Certainly enough for the song.
Yeah.
But studio-wise, to get it perfect, especially when you start using gain, we haven't even talked about that.
Yeah, and all the different harmonics and stuff. But I'm just going to say, with a telly, I have compensated telly saddle pieces.
Yeah.
To remember, you were saying how you end up with the wound strings going in that direction, and then the G string jumps back and goes back there.
Yeah.
So it does that. But this is the reason why you see a lot of old tellies where they've taken the pair of pliers and
bent it
so that you can have a chance of getting that string anywhere near in tune.
Yeah.
But it's all a compromise on guitar.
And then you play that guitar for 25 years and you don't even notice that it's not intonated properly because you bend to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's...
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Okay.
So interesting.
One final thing there are lots more things to say about this, but you can change the colour of the display as well. Please tell me that's here somewhere. Note. What's that say? Yes.
Oh, I like the blue.
Yeah. Green,
wow.
Purple. And you can assign colours to different tunings if you want. Also, on a really practical note, some people have trouble with colour. So they're either colourblind or they don't see colours in the same way as everybody else. Certain colours really annoy people. Certain colours make people feel a certain way. And I say that in all seriousness. So if you find that blue is more visible for you in daylight,
okay, and
you prefer a more muted, whatever, something.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I really like it.
It sounds like a gimmick to have different colours, but I think there are practicality benefits there too. So. Check the Strobostomp HD out because it is really exciting. It's the first time they've done a true strobe tuner in a pedal that size with that big a display on it.
Yeah.
So it is kind of interesting addition to the market. I want to play around with it just because of what I was saying earlier, always having trouble. You know, I've used this or the TU-2 for many, many years.
But it always gets you an approximation, right? Because you get it in the ballpark with that, and then you
gets me close enough within about 12 seconds.
Yep.
And then for the first 8 bars, I can then work out whether I'm there or not.
Yeah.
And maybe that's enough.
Sure.
Because you just spend so long getting used to it. Okay, we were going to talk about buffers.
Well, the thing about buffers is it's really simple. If you've got, like we have in the Strobostomp, if you want to be able to have the tuner on while you're playing, then it needs to be buffered because the signal has to be split.
Yeah, you can't.
Otherwise, it's going to be loading the signal. Otherwise, you can have it in true bypass. So when you turn it on, it basically mutes the signal and tunes. And then you turn it back off, no tuning happening, you're away. So that's, the pedals that have the buffer in it give you the ability to play at the same time and look down and see your tuning. The turbo tuner doesn't have that. It's just on or off.
No buffer.
No buffer.
So just to finish the thing on buffers, if you're using a buffer in the tuner and that's useful to you because you have a long cable run and you want that buffer to drive that cable run, and maybe you've got some other pedals after it which could do with it because they darken things off and all the rest of it. Your advice would be put the tuner after the overdrives.
Absolutely. Put the tuner after your gain stages and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, because
it could, and lots of boards, it may well be a good thing.
Yeah, and if you like the sound of a buffer into your overdrive, then put it before. But just be aware that having that buffer will affect your tone. So it's neither a good thing nor a bad thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Yep.
More brightness, more clarity, more sibilance, more fizziness into overdrives.
Yeah.
Is basically a buffer, isn't it?
Yep.
What have we said? We said there are 4 things that matter about a guitar tuner. We've said it needs to fit in the place that you want to use it, either on your pedal board, on the floor, on top of a desk, or clamped to the end of your guitar. 2, it needs to be visible.
Yes.
It needs to show you the information you want to see.
Yep.
Which might be a strobe, it might be a chromatic display, it might be a note name, it might be a string reference such as 1, 2, 3, or 4. It needs to be fast and accurate. And we went into accuracy is not the same for everybody by a long, long, long way.
Yeah.
And then we were delving into how you can affect that accuracy by sweetening the tuning to your desired instrument,
Amazing.
ear, key, or otherwise.
Yeah.
We should say that I'm not 100% aware that you can't put sweetened tunings into any of these others, so please check those specs online. It's just really to say that those possibilities are out there and you should be aware of them when you're looking for a guitar tuner.
Yeah. I genuinely believe that it is getting the right tuner for you is a real personal thing. I click with the turbo tuner, have for a long time. As a matter of fact, I loved it so much I actually bought 2 extra ones for my bass player and the guitar player in the band when I first got it.
Yes, God, do you all have to use the same tuner in the band?
Yeah.
What an interesting question.
Yeah, it's a thing.
What a really interesting question.
So, but just to say that it is a personal thing, and find the tuner, experiment with it. You might plug into the Polytune and go, every time I use this, I sound awesome. Plug into something else and go, no, it's not right. I have that experience with some tuners.
Yeah.
Have a play.
You guys can't possibly do a whole video on tuners. Well, we just did, and we barely even touched the sides.
Yes.
So make of it what you will.
Yeah.
I really want to play with this because
it's so interesting.
It's offering things that appeal to me. I even managed to use the menus quite quickly.
It didn't go by unnoticed. There you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And also, don't forget to click on the little notification bell and you'll be notified anytime we upload a new video. A massive thank you to our preferred retailers in the UK and Europe is...
Anderson's Music of Guildford, Surrey, where you can probably buy most of these tuners.
Yes.
But not this one, interestingly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they don't sell those.
Okay.
You should sell those, Lee.
Funny enough, I bought that in America at...
Riv City.
That's where I got that one from.
The sadly no longer with us Riv City.
Yes. And our preferred retailer in Australia
would be Pedal Empire of Brisbane, Queensland. And Matt has just bought the bitchingest car. It's a Holden something or other that looks almost exactly like Starsky and Hutch car, but with 4 doors for like increased practicality. It's such a cool car. It's got
need to have a look.
Chrome alloys. It's like a 70s, which probably means like 90s for Australia, does it? But it's like a 70s.
We had the 70s in Australia. They were a big deal.
That was electricity, was it?
Yeah, lots of us are still there, I'll have you know.
Anyway, Matt, congratulations on your banging car. It's very exciting.
Very good.
Yeah.
Massive thank you to everyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com. Grabbed yourself some, what would you say?
Anagram.
And it's an anagram. Okay. I was going to say something else, but yeah, that's what they are, an anagram. And we've got loads of stuff, books and mugs and hats and stickers and journals and pencils and
mugs.
It's all there.
You say mugs?
Mugs.
You said mugs.
Yeah.
Right, couple of mugs you are.
Brilliant. Cheers, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. Bye.